I get asked a lot about the cultivation of intuition, what it is, how it works, and how we can strengthen and clarify this innate ability within all of us. In this week's Free Friday community class, we're talking about what intuition is, how to cultivate it, and how to experience deeper intuition through the teachings and the blessings of the plant spirits. Intuition is a way that we dovetail and communicate and connect and interact with the world around us beyond our usual faculties of communication, beyond speech, beyond sight, beyond tactile sensation. The intuition is an inner knowing and a rising of gnosis, hits and downloads of inspiration that prove themselves with the passing of time and the unfolding of events to be true. So in order for intuition to be real, to be a thing, which we all know it is, there are some presuppositions about the nature of the very universe we call home. This is something that I have talked a lot about at length in many other videos and classes, but I will briefly talk about it here because it bears repeating that from the perspective of the work that I do, my relationship with the plant spirits and their guardians, what I have been given and how I've been inspired by this work, I approach the practice and the refinement of intuition from a perspective that the universe, the cosmos, has no creator. There was never one finite moment of manifestation, nor one specific being from whom the entirety of existence manifested. Rather, the universe, the cosmos at large, is a manifestation of an infinite number of relationships. It always has been, it is now, and it always will be. That everything that is done, every relationship that is made, whether it's between neurons in your own brain or through email across the world or anything else of any greater or smaller import, is the very act of weaving that creates the cosmos. And it's because of this that the plant spirits consistently teach that what we do in the moment, how we think, how we behave, what kind of ritual we live, defines what's possible in the world to come, because relationships create the branch off of which our future will bud. So this is very important. So we have to begin a discussion about intuition from the understanding that the universe is a complex, multidimensional, really unfathomable, complex network of relationships. Every relationship is caused from relationships before it, and every relationship is the foundation for every relationship that will come after it. And when we pan all the way back, if that was possible, we would see this infinitude of relationships being the very body of the cosmos, the very body of the universe. So because of this, we are able to be connected to everywhere, everyone, and every when that ever has existed and ever will exist. The universe, when conceptualized as a web or as a net, or as I like to work with it in the symbol of the world tree, every part is connected to every other part. And so the process of intuition is really just opening up and being able to pluck a strand of that web and listen for the reverberation, listen to what is returned from the person, place, thing, or time that you are interested in getting information about. So the way this happens is really interesting. We tend to think, especially in the West, of intuition as a very mental thing. It happens, we think about intuition happening in the third eye, which is a misappropriated understanding of a Hindu chakra system. We think that the intuition is mental, that it's a purely visual concept, but in reality, the way I experience it, the way that I try to teach it to other people, the conversation of intuition actually happens in the heart center. In fact, our heart center, as the center of our being, the liminal point within us, is always in deep communion and conversation with the entirety of the cosmos. There's always a dialogue happening between the part and the whole. So intuition really is a slowing down, an aligning, and attuning to that conversation that's already happening anyway. It's not a pushing to make something go, to start something, but rather a dialing into something that's already happening. And I think that's pretty cool. And it allows us to make the process a lot more simple. So intuition happens in the heart center. And from there, that message, that communion, that conversation spirals out into the wholeness of being. From there, the information that we receive gets translated through our own internal language symbol system, right? That what we receive and how we receive it, how that wisdom bubbles up from the deep heart will be very personal. It will be in words and phrases, memories, symbols, scents, songs, colors that are meaningful for the person receiving the conversation. This is one of the hardest things for people to wrap their heads around when I teach plant spirit communication work, is that the plants will speak to you in your own language, not in the language you speak with the world around you. For example, not necessarily in English, the language that I'm speaking now, but in my internal language, symbol sets that are meaningful for me as an individual person. And so the conversations we have with plants and the conversation we have with the cosmos often feels like it is happening inside of our own heads, that it is our own internal dialogue manifesting, because it's a language that we use to talk to ourselves all the time. So we have to learn to trust and to roll with it and to let it take us where it's going to take us. So intuition happens because the part is always in communion with the whole via the liminal space within the heart center. And we have the ability to listen in and interpret the messages that the world is always giving us as we walk through our lives. This is one really interesting reason why plant spirit work enhances intuition, because it clarifies our connection to the whole. Plants will, by nature of them moving through us in medicine and magic and in ritual, they will remind us, they will reattune us to the fact that we are connected, that we are a knot in the web of the universe, just as important, just as part of nature as any other being or place or time. This is one of the fundamental empowerments that plant spirit work gives to people. We're not always conscious of it, but after years of work, we start to realize, wow, I walk through the world feeling like I belong here, like I'm part of, and it makes me want to lean further into nature rather than further away from it. So plant spirit work, by nature of what it is and how it works, will clarify our connection to the whole, which will then strengthen our ability to receive intuitive messages from the universe we live in. The plant spirit work will also open gates. It will find ways that maybe we have disconnected ourselves from the flow of information. This happens a lot of times to naturally very intuitive children, that as they grow up, they'll kind of repress it or shut it down or have it shut down by other people. And so the plant spirits will come in and they will open those gates for us, right? They'll soften the parts of us that have gotten hardened or overprotected or disconnected from our connectedness to the whole, which will only then increase how well our intuition functions. And finally, we will receive healing of our connectedness through our relationships with specific plant allies, whether it's those that help us feel protected and safe and properly boundaried, or those who help soften our hearts, or those plant spirit allies whose virtues are literally about strengthening the intuition, right? We have many, many examples of plants that when we work with them in ritual and magic and in medicine, part of what they do when they move through the human person is to fire up the intuition, to clear the dust off the heart so that we are aware of these communications that are always happening, right? So many layers in which the plant spirits get involved in this process. It's very, very cool. So a couple of points. How can we intentionally cultivate clear, meaningful intuition? How can we be more intuitive, right? So much of my work is intuitive. It's based on gnosis. It's based on communication with non-human persons. Much of my medicine making and my formula writing is a very intuitive process. I can always show my work for it, but there's an intuitive aspect of it. So how can we cultivate that, right? How can we flex that muscle and get it more strong, get it more toned? First is to walk through the world trying to walk heart first, right? Trying to place more importance on how you feel than how you think. They're both equally important, but we live in a world where all of the importance, all the centeredness comes to the thought, the thinking, the analysis. That's where we've placed value. To the extent that we have sometimes shut down the faculty of feeling our way through situations, following our gut, following what comes up within us in a more feeling faculty rather than how we analyze, how we plan, how we design, how we, split test something. So we can practice going through the world, stepping into spaces and into situations. And before we start dissecting it mentally, we can remind ourselves to slow down to tree speed, take a couple of breaths, and see how it feels to be in the space. Close your eyes, quiet and soften your hearing, bring your senses inward if that helps, and just feel the space. Walk into a park or a wild space, or walk into your house at the end of a long day and just take stock of how it feels to be in that space before you start the mental gymnastics of dissecting the experience. Over time, this will help the voice of the heart rise up and become a louder influence and a louder receptacle for the experiences that we have. Another thing is that we can try to practice experiencing our connectedness. So this is really easy in nature, going on hikes, going on walks, sitting outside in your backyard, whatever, and trying to explore the ways in which you are connected to everything you see. So exploring your relationship to the ground underneath your butt, to gravity, to respiration and how your respiratory faculties are connected to the trees that are around you, and how the way that you've gardened puts you in relationship with space and with the critters. And so you're kind of just picking everything you can see and kind of exploring how you might be connected to that thing. It's sometimes really close up and loud. Sometimes you have to do some weaving around to get there, but it's a meditation and it helps strengthen our awareness. We can also do the animistic practice that I share in a lot of videos, which is practice personhood, right? Walk through the world being aware that you are surrounded by other persons, non-human persons, who are aware of your presence and who are filled with wisdom and the ability to communicate. This also strengthens the intuitive faculties. And last but not least, we can ask for help. We can ask our spiritual allies, our ancestors, the deities we work with, the plants that we work with, to support us in cultivating a stronger intuition, and we will see that their help very much shows up for us. So I would love to hear about how intuition plays a part in your life and your practices with the plants, what you have done to strengthen your intuitive work, challenges maybe that you've had, anything you want to share. If you were interested in this content, you want access to courses, advanced classes, and all that good stuff, I invite you to join us over on Patreon, where I am sharing lots of this type of material every single month, and it allows you and I to strengthen our relationship of reciprocity, which I very much enjoy. So Thank you so much for joining me this week for our Free Friday community class. These happen every Friday right here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, please do that now, and I look forward to seeing you next time.